All right, folks, this is it. Good Friday. Always been told it's good for us, not so much for Jesus. He was fulfilling his purpose, but it was really good for us for what it accomplished for us. When we remember that this is the day we commemorate when Jesus went to the cross for us. I just want to read this, okay? I'm not going to do a lot of talking today, but just want to read this from Mark chapter 15, starting at verse 22. Then they brought him to the place Golgotha, which is translated place of a skull. They tried to give him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided up his garments among themselves, casting lots for them to decide what each man should take. It was the third hour when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." They crucified two robbers with him, one on his right and one on his left. And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, "And he was numbered with transgressors." Those passing by were hurling abuse at him, wagging their heads and saying, "Ha! You who are going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes, were mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. Let this Christ, the King of Israel, now come down from the cross, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him were also insulting him. When the 6th hour came, darkness fell over the whole land until the 9th hour. At the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which is translated, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they began saying, "Behold, he's calling for Elijah." Someone ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a reed, and gave him a drink, saying, "Let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." And Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last. And the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. When the centurion who was standing right in front of him saw the way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." Now, I find it just a little amusing that Mark goes through all this tremendous setup about where Jesus is and why he's there, and he goes through all of these intricate details of the circumstances, but in verse 24, all he says is, "And they crucified him." He doesn't go through the details. The nails through his wrist. Now, it was probably right around in here, okay? That meaty part of your palm, because they wanted this person to stay on the cross. They didn't want it to put up here where it would easily tear through. So they put it here where it would stay. The same way with the feet. You know, it wasn't just through the thinnest part of the feet. It was through the parts that they knew would stay. They put it through the meatiest part of the feet. But Mark kind of skips all of that. But then he goes on, after they crucified him, they took his clothes. Now, folks, they were making this like it was nothing. I mean, they were just this was just another person. They cast lots, decide who would get his clothes. 2 common criminals on each side of him. You know, we get this picture, and we always get this picture in all of our art and everything else where there's this cross that's higher up, and then there's 2 crosses on the sides. And I don't really believe it was that way. I believe it's probably just 3 crosses in a row. You know, they were pretty much all the same because they all considered them the same, just to be criminals, just to be people who were to be crucified. And even those who were passing by, it says, those who were passing, not that they had come up there to see the crucifixion, not that they'd come up there to be a part of this, but they were just passing by for whatever reason, doing business or whatever. And these are the people who were, by the way, don't ever forget, these were the people who were praising him a week ago. People who were just hailing him as a conquering king a week ago, who are now passing by and they're insulting him, wagging their heads, just hurling insults at him as much as they possibly could. And even the priests, it says, even the priests were mocking him, telling him, well, come down from the cross. Because if you come down from that cross, and this is what they meant, if you come down from that cross, we'll believe. See, it was their own ignorance. They couldn't understand the concept that Jesus was trying to put forth to them. Have faith. You know, faith has to do with things you can't see. See, they said, you come down from that cross and we'll believe. And Jesus, I believe he just thought even more and more, oh man, they just don't get it. Then, 3 hours of darkness. Now, what happened during this 3 hours of darkness across the land? Because it wasn't just there at the hillside. It says it was across the area, across that land. What happened? I love the fact that in Bible college, we had a great professor called Dr. Black, who told us about that darkness that was in Egypt, that one of the plagues was the plague of darkness. And he would say it this way: it was a darkness that would ooze between your fingers. It was that dark. There was no light. You could light a candle. There was no light. You could light a match. No light. I wonder if this darkness was that way, because I really believe that it probably was.